There is a specific kind of intelligence that most people spend years developing. The intelligence of the sharper argument, the better evidence, the more precise counterclaim, and there is a kind of intelligence that most people never develop at all. The intelligence to recognize when the argument should not happen. The Stoic tradition's primary contribution to the navigation of foolish conflict is not a set of techniques for winning arguments. It is the examined wisdom about which arguments genuinely deserve to be fought and which deserve to be declined, and the specific daily practice that develops the inner stability from which that genuine discernment becomes reliably available. Today, we are going to examine the complete psychological and philosophical account of why foolish arguments take what they take, why the instinct to engage in them is so persistent despite the consistent evidence that the engagement produces nothing valuable, and what the Stoic framework for developing genuine discernment in these situations actually consists of at the level of daily practice. Welcome to Master Your Mind, where ancient philosophy becomes practical mental strength. The psychological mechanics of why foolish arguments are so hard to leave. The specific difficulty of not engaging with foolish arguments is not a lack of wisdom. Almost everyone, confronted with the instruction to not argue with foolish people, immediately agrees that this is wise. The difficulty is the specific automatic quality of the emotional activation that the foolish argument produces, and the specific way that activation convinces the mind that this particular argument, right now, is the exception that genuinely requires engagement. The activation mechanism is well understood in psychological terms. When something challenges the specific aspects of our self-concept, our intelligence, our honesty, our competence, our character, the emotional system registers the challenge as a genuine threat, not metaphorically. Literally, the same neurological alarm system that registers physical threats also registers ego threats, and the response it produces is equally automatic, the urgent, flooding, narrowing of attention activation that is designed to motivate defensive action. That activation does not feel like a neurological alarm. It feels like clarity, like the certainty that this situation genuinely requires the immediate response that the activation is motivating. And because it feels like clarity rather than alarm, it is consistently mistaken for good judgment. The angry response feels like the appropriate assertion of a valid boundary. The defensive explanation feels like the honest correction of a genuine misrepresentation. The continued engagement feels like the principled refusal to let false claims stand unchallenged. None of these feelings are inaccurate descriptions of the genuine desire underlying them. The desire for the angry response to be the appropriate assertion of a valid boundary is genuine. The desire for the defensive explanation to be the honest correction of a genuine misrepresentation is genuine. The feelings themselves are real. What is not reliable is the feeling's claim to certainty about the appropriateness of the action the feeling is motivating. The Stoic distinction that addresses this is the distinction between feeling something and being governed by it, between experiencing the anger, the defensive urgency, the pride-activated need to respond, and treating those experiences as commands that must be obeyed because they have been felt. Seneca, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. The delay interrupts the specific mechanism through which the feeling produces the action without the examination that would determine whether the action is genuinely appropriate. And that interruption, however brief, however imperfect, creates the specific space in which genuine intelligence can operate rather than automatic reactive urgency. Why evidence does not change emotionally committed minds. The most persistent source of unnecessary foolish argument is the belief that better evidence will eventually reach a mind that has not been persuaded by the evidence already provided. That persistence, in the face of consistent evidence that the evidence is not working, is the specific pattern that the Stoic framework is addressing when it describes the trap of continuing to argue with someone who cannot be reached through argument. The reason better evidence does not change emotionally committed minds is not stupidity. It is the specific psychological mechanism through which the ego manages threats to its self-concept. When evidence contradicts a position that the ego has publicly committed to, the ego does not experience the evidence as informative. It experiences it as threatening, as the specific kind of challenge that, if accepted, would require the humiliation of public position change. And humans are extraordinarily motivated to avoid that specific humiliation. The psychological research on this phenomenon, documented across decades and across cultures under names like cognitive dissonance, ego-protective attribution, and motivated reasoning, is remarkably consistent. People consistently find ways to discount, dismiss, or reinterpret evidence that challenges positions they are emotionally committed to, not out of dishonesty, out of the specific, automatic, largely unconscious mechanism through which the ego protects itself from the threat of being publicly wrong. This is what Epictetus was describing when he identified the difference between those who enter discussions seeking truth and those who enter seeking victory. The person seeking truth experiences new evidence as potentially useful, as information that might update their understanding, improve their position, or resolve the genuine uncertainty that motivated the discussion. The person seeking victory experiences new evidence as a weapon aimed at them, as something to be defended against rather than engaged with. These are not different levels of intelligence. They are different orientations to the discussion. And no amount of intelligence in the evidence will change an orientation that is not oriented toward receiving evidence in the first place. The practical implication is the most important of all the implications in this framework. Once the orientation of the other party has been accurately identified as victory-seeking rather than truth-seeking, continuing to provide evidence is not the charitable act of honest communication it appears to be. It is the continued engagement in a process that is not producing what it appears designed to produce, and that is consistently producing the specific costs that foolish arguments consistently generate. The patient's insight, why time reveals what arguments cannot. One of the most practically empowering insights in the Stoic framework for navigating foolishness is the specific understanding that most foolish positions are self-defeating in ways that only time can reveal, and that the patient observation of that self-defeat is consistently more effective, less costly, and more genuinely satisfying than any argument could produce. The specific mechanism is this: what is unstable eventually reveals its instability. What is dishonest eventually becomes difficult to maintain. What is built on the performance of confidence rather than the genuine possession of it eventually fails to sustain the performance under the specific conditions that performances consistently encounter. Repetition, scrutiny, and the accumulating evidence of behavior over time. The Stoics trusted this process deeply because they understood something that reactive people too busy defending themselves to observe clearly, consistently miss. Character reveals itself through repeated behavior, not through isolated moments. The person who appears powerful through aggressive confidence in a single interaction will reveal, through the consistency of their behavior across many interactions, whether that confidence is genuine or performed. The position that sounds persuasive in a single argument will reveal, through its contact with reality over time, whether its persuasiveness reflects genuine insight or rhetorical skill in service of an inaccurate claim. The patience required to allow this revealing to occur to resist the compulsion to force the issue through continued argument when time will accomplish what argument cannot, is itself a specific form of discipline. It is the discipline of trusting the process rather than needing to control the outcome. And it is among the most powerful of the Stoic disciplines because it liberates an enormous amount of genuine quality attention from the futile attempt to force understanding where understanding is not yet available, making that attention genuinely available for the things that actually deserve it. Marcus Aurelius, life was short and attention was limited. To waste mental clarity on the endless irrationality of others is a quiet form of self-destruction. The patience that redirects that attention from the futile argument to the genuine work is not passivity. It is the specific form of active wisdom that the Stoic tradition consistently identified as one of the highest available to daily human life. What the foolish person's behavior is actually communicating. The transformative shift in how foolish behavior is experienced occurs when the observation of it moves from the position of someone who is threatened by it to the position of someone who is genuinely curious about what it reveals. Every specific pattern of foolish behavior, the interrupting, the escalating, the deflecting from evidence to personal attack, the need to dominate the emotional atmosphere of the interaction, is communicating something specific about the inner state producing it. And that communication, read clearly from the position of the composed, observant, non-reactive presence, is considerably more informative than any argument the foolish behavior is explicitly making. The person who constantly interrupts is communicating that silence is genuinely threatening to them, that the possibility of someone else's voice occupying the conversational space, uncontrolled and unmanaged, produces a specific quality of anxiety that requires immediate management. The person who becomes aggressive over small disagreements is communicating that their sense of their own adequacy is more fragile than their confident exterior suggests, that disagreement reaches something vulnerable beneath the performance. None of this communication requires the foolish person to intend it. It is the natural, automatic, involuntary expression of the inner state through all the channels through which inner states are expressed. And the composed, observant person, the person who is not occupied with managing their own reactive response and is therefore genuinely available to observe what is occurring, has access to all of it. This access is not available to the reactive person. The reactive person is too occupied with their own defensive processing to observe clearly what the other person's behavior is revealing. Their attention has been captured by the content of what is being said, by the argument that must be refuted, the claim that must be corrected, the misrepresentation that must be addressed. And the process of engaging with the content prevents the observation of the pattern. This is one of the most concrete and most practically consequential differences between the reactive and the composed engagement with foolish behavior. The composed engagement produces more and more accurate information about the actual situation. Not because the composed person is more intelligent, because the composed person has their full intelligence available for observation, rather than having it occupied by the management of their own reactive state. The social ecology of composure. How one stable person changes the room. The Stoic understanding of emotional contagion has a counterpart that is equally important for the complete account of why genuine composure in the face of foolishness is so consequential. The understanding of how one genuinely composed presence affects the entire social ecology of an interaction. Most people who have encountered a genuinely composed person in a charged situation have experienced this effect directly, even if they have not articulated it clearly. The quality of the interaction changes. The pace slows. The emotional intensity that was building begins to lose its momentum. people who were escalating begin speaking more carefully. The quality of attention in the room shifts from the reactive, narrow, defensively oriented quality that the escalating emotional atmosphere was producing, toward the slightly more open, slightly more genuinely present quality that the stable presence is modeling. This shift does not occur because the composed person is doing anything to produce it. It occurs because the composed presence is simply not providing the specific inputs that the escalating emotional atmosphere requires in order to sustain itself. The conflict that feeds on reactive engagement cannot sustain itself in the absence of reactive engagement. The emotional contagion that spreads through matching activation cannot spread to someone who is genuinely not activating. And as the escalation gradually loses the fuel it requires, something significant happens in the social ecology. The contrast between the escalating behavior and the composed response becomes more visible. Not because either party is performing for observers, because the contrast is simply clearer in the absence of the argumentative noise that would otherwise obscure it. The composed person is, through the specific quality of their genuine inner stability, providing the most effective possible demonstration of the difference between behavior that is governed by examined values and behavior that is governed by unexamined reactive patterns. And that demonstration, not the argument, not the superior evidence, not the better counterclaim, is the most genuinely persuasive form of communication available in these situations. The daily architecture of the discipline. The specific daily practices through which the Stoic discipline of never arguing with foolish people is actually built, as opposed to aspired to in the abstract, are worth naming precisely. Because the aspiration without the practice is not the discipline. It is only the desire for it. The first daily practice is the morning assessment. Before the day has produced its inevitable encounters with foolishness, a specific, brief, genuine examination of which interactions the day is likely to contain where the reactive patterns are most reliably activated. Not anxious anticipation, honest, practical preparation of the examined inner orientation from which those interactions can be met with something other than the automatic reactive engagement that the patterns produce. The second daily practice is the in-the-moment question. In every situation where the reactive urgency of the foolish argument is rising, where the pride is tightening, the thoughts are accelerating, the specific compelling certainty that this situation requires engagement is building, the specific, brief, honest question, does this person appear to be seeking truth or seeking victory? And if the honest answer is victory, the follow-on question, what does my peace cost when I provide the engagement that the victory seeking requires? The third daily practice is the evening discernment. At the end of each day, a specific review of the foolish engagements the day contained, which were genuinely engaged with, which were declined, which should have been declined, and what the specific cost was in each category. Not to establish a ledger of failures, to develop the specific, concrete, daily refined understanding of the personal patterns of foolish engagement. Which specific types of foolishness most reliably activate the reactive urgency? Which specific types of relationship make the reactive engagement hardest to decline? Which specific times of day or specific conditions of inner state make the discipline most difficult to maintain? That understanding, built through the daily, honest, compassionate examination of the actual patterns rather than the idealized aspiration, is the specific form of self-knowledge from which genuine, practically available, situationally accurate discernment develops. And the discernment developed through daily practice over the time that genuine development requires is the complete Stoic answer to the question of how to navigate a world that will always contain foolish people. Not by defeating them, not by convincing them, not by out-arguing them, by developing the specific quality of inner life that their foolishness cannot reach, and that, in the complete absence of reactive engagement that would otherwise sustain it, allows the foolishness to exhaust itself without consuming anything that genuinely belongs to you. There are several specific application domains where the Stoic discipline of never arguing with foolish people has the most significant practical consequences, and where the daily development of the discipline described in this framework produces the most immediately noticeable improvements in the quality of daily experience. The first domain is close relationships. These are the interactions where foolish arguments are both most common and most costly, because the emotional stakes are highest, the reactive patterns are most deeply established, and the specific compulsion to prove, to correct, and to be understood is most powerful. The person closest to you has access to the most reliable activation points for the reactive patterns, and they encounter those points most frequently. In close relationships, the discipline of never arguing with foolish people does not mean withdrawing from genuine conflict or accepting ongoing disrespect without response. It means developing the specific capacity to distinguish between the genuine conflict that deserves direct, sustained, emotionally engaged engagement, because the relationship is important enough and the other person is interested enough in genuine understanding that the difficult conversation can produce something real, and the foolish argument that is not a genuine conflict at all, but a reactive emotional exchange that will not produce understanding regardless of how it is conducted. The Stoic prescription for close relationships is not the suppression of conflict. It is the patient development of the specific discernment that knows which conversations deserve the investment and which deserve the dignified, non-dramatic decline. And in close relationships, the dignified decline, the specific quality of choosing not to continue the foolish argument without punishing the other person for having started it, is among the most practically difficult and most genuinely valuable applications of the entire discipline. The second domain is the professional environment. This is the domain where the foolish argument most consistently has long-term consequences for the quality of working relationships, professional reputation, and career trajectory. The colleague whose reflexive defensiveness produces escalating arguments over minor disagreements is having those interactions observed by everyone in the environment. The employee who cannot maintain composure under criticism is communicating something specific about the quality of their inner life to every leader who observes the pattern. And the person who can be reliably provoked through specific approaches is providing those approaches to everyone in the environment who has observed the provocation working. The Stoic discipline for the professional domain begins with the specific, honest acknowledgement of which specific professional situations and which specific professional relationships most reliably produce the reactive urgency of the foolish argument. That acknowledgement, made clearly and without self-condemnation, is the beginning of the preparation that allows a different quality of response in those situations when they arise. The third domain is public and social discourse, the increasingly ubiquitous domain of online interaction, where the specific conditions for foolish arguments are uniquely unfavorable, and where the Stoic discipline of declining them is most urgently and most consistently needed. Online interactions lack the specific quality of full social presence that in-person interaction provides. The micro-expressions, the tone of voice, the body language, the full informational richness that allows genuine social intelligence to operate. What remains is the content of the words, stripped of the context that would allow their genuine meaning to be accurately assessed. And in this stripped-down, context-poor environment, the foolish argument thrives. because the absence of full social presence removes the specific social costs that foolish argumentation normally incurs. The person who loses composure in a face-to-face interaction bears the immediate social cost of being visibly out of control in front of witnesses. The person who loses composure online does not bear that cost in the same way, and the absence of the cost removes one of the primary natural brakes on foolish engagement. The Stoic discipline for online environments is the most direct application of the framework's core prescription. Most online arguments are not seeking truth. Most are seeking the specific validation of emotional confirmation. Most are not productive regardless of how well argued the contribution is. And most are more effectively addressed through the simple withdrawal of attention, the specific, undramatic, non-performative choice to simply not engage, than through any counter-argument. The attention withdrawn from the online foolish argument is not lost. It is available for the actual work, the actual relationships, the actual present moment engagement with what genuinely deserves presence. And that availability is itself among the most significant practical benefits of the discipline this framework is developing. Practice the 3 daily practices in all 3 domains. Assess the morning with honesty. Ask the in-the-moment question. Review the evening with compassion. And allow the daily compounding of those 3 simple practices to build the specific quality of discernment from which the Stoic discipline of never arguing with foolish people becomes not the effortful discipline it initially requires, but the natural, uncontrived expression of a genuinely developed inner life that has learned what its peace is worth. That inner life, genuinely developed, daily practiced, patient, is available. Begin building it today. One more truth about the foolish argument worth naming explicitly. The person who has genuinely developed the Stoic discipline does not experience the declination of foolish arguments as deprivation. They experience it as the specific quality of freedom that comes from no longer being governed by every emotional provocation that presents itself as requiring engagement. The argument that was declined is not a satisfaction withheld. It is a cost avoided. And the cost consistently exceeds any satisfaction the engagement would have produced. Genuine understanding, once it is genuinely internalized, changes the experience of the declination from sacrifice to relief. The Stoics returned constantly to the quieter question that this entire framework has been building toward. What actually matters here? Not what feels satisfying in the temporary moment. Not what protects pride in front of an audience. What genuinely improves the quality of the inner life in the long run. Every time that question is asked honestly, before the foolish argument is engaged, the inner life moves a small amount further in the direction of the specific quality of genuine freedom that the Stoic tradition was consistently pointing toward. Build the habit of asking it. The discipline follows from the question. If this message resonated, the Master Your Mind program gives you the complete structured practice for building the kind of discipline described in this video, not as a willpower challenge, as a values-based daily practice that sustains itself through alignment rather than through force. The link is in the description. When you are ready, it is there. And if this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and stay committed to the path of self-mastery. Every single day on Master Your Mind, we bring you the ancient wisdom that builds stronger, wiser, more unshakable human beings. This is not passive viewing. This is training. I will see you in the next video.